Hi everyone, welcome back to Poetology. I'm Dan and this is a video about the National Poetry Library. I've prepared two videos on a visit that I did there, and I'm going to show you some of the magazines that they have today. I'm going to show you why the National Poetry Library is such a great place to look at poetry magazines and how much there is to discover if you have access to London, obviously, and to the library. If not, well, you'll get to see quite a few magazine covers and options that you have in the UK and elsewhere to send poems to, but also to read and browse and discover new poets. I made other videos about poetry magazines and online journals as well, so you can look at the playlist over here. This will be a good continuation of the video on poetry journals, printed journals, that I have made before. The National Poetry Library in London is situated in South Bank, at the South Bank Centre, and is on the 5th floor of that building. It's smaller than I expected before I had visited it for the first time, because it's the National Poetry Library, I thought it would be huge. It's actually relatively small, but it contains a huge number of poetry books, some of which you can see on site, and a few of which you can actually borrow and take home, and the library card is free. They have a collection of books about poetry as well, and much of the space is used for these shelves that you can move to open and close spaces, which usually you find in the basement of libraries, but here it's at the center of this room, and you can have access to them. Obviously, make sure you know how to use them and don't crush someone or get crushed in the process. As I said, we're going to look at magazines, so they have a really impressive magazine stand collection. I just decided to film the titles so you can see all of the different publications that they have. You may recognize some of them, others will be new to you, but it just gives you an impression of the sheer number of poetry publications that are available in the UK, and it's not solely the UK, there are a few titles from elsewhere too. Some are fairly large publications, others are very small, self-published, so you get well-known titles like The North or Magma, but you also get the Oulipo puzzle book here, for example, or some other titles that we will have a closer look at. Here we see Smoke, Spelt, The Stinging Fly, The Survivor's Zine, Tart, Tea Art, Time Haiku, Under the Radar, Food, 12 Rivers, and I decided to select a few of the magazines that I've already mentioned on the channel. These are titles that you may be familiar with if you've watched Poetology before. It's the Poetry Review, Ambit, Ache, Sick, and Poetry and Collage. The Poetry Review is the Poetry Society's magazine. Ambit is a publication I really like that unfortunately is publishing its last issue for the time being. Then Ache and Sick are two magazines centered around disability and illness, and Poetry and Collage is a new publication from the US associated with Collage magazine that publishes collage and poems as a combined art form. I decided to have a look at a few smaller ones as well. So here is Trans Time. I just stumbled upon it. I had no idea what it was. It's a small publication made by trans people and collecting several texts and artwork by trans people. As you can see, the art is quite interesting. This is Euphoria in the bathroom mirror. They combine texts and pictured illustrations. Here is another really beautiful illustration with a poem next to it. The art is quite raw, quite DIY in style, kind of punk. Here's also a self-portrait with mixed media. Then this other magazine caught my attention. It's titled Pain, and inside there is an epigraph saying, "There's something like pain in the room and it's partly overcome, but the weight of objects wins," by Emilia Rosselli. And then you get a list of contributors. This is poetry only. It starts with Rebecca Tamas, and it's simple print, but quite beautiful. I would like to spend more time with it. And my third choice was The Moth, because I've heard so much about it, but I've never actually looked at a copy. And it's really beautiful, very well made, combines text, so there's a lot of poetry with beautiful illustrations. There's also prose, and it just looks really stunning. The style is very nice. I would definitely enjoy having a copy or even a subscription to it. The Poetry Library loans books that you can take with you home. However, all of the magazines are for reference only. So you can go there, spend time with the magazines. There are small tables and chairs. You can sit down, take your time, but at the end you have to leave them at the library, unlike some of the books that you can borrow. The building itself is also a really nice place. If you don't know it, there are lots of cultural events of all kinds. It's a very nice place to spend some time in, just by the Thames with an amazing view. If you have access to the National Poetry Library, then I highly recommend going for a visit. If not, you can also have a look at their website, nationalpoetrylibrary.org.uk. They share some online poetry, and they also have a quote finding service. So if you have a quote from a poem but you can't remember which poem it is, use that tool. Okay, the recording stopped here, but I hope you enjoyed watching this video about the National Poetry Library. I would love to hear in the comments whether you have been to the National Poetry Library, would like to go there, or whether you are interested in any of the books mentioned in this vlog. And I hope to see you again very soon in the next video. Bye!